I'm Ed, this is Jonathan. Welcome to another episode of Small Town Puller. We're back working on his tractor and Rose's tractor, the one we call the Hustler. We're still trying to get it ready, finished fabrication so we can get it painted so we can head to a pull in March. We're going to go through kind of a list of stuff we got done and then pick out the next couple items to work on and get going on it. Ready? Let's do this. So here's kind of our cardboard list of everything we got to get going on or get done on this thing yet. I think I'm going to start by trying to make or fabricate the switch box for that. That's going to hold the ignition switch and the timer. We're going to run the water pump off a timer because we've had some issues where we get done at the end of the track and we'll leave that on for a while and it ends up draining the battery dead. So we're going to do that. We got a couple gauges we're going to try to make some mounts for and put on. I think I'm going to have Jonathan maybe start working on getting this front brake rotor mounted over here so we can start making the new caliper mount. We usually run a brake caliper on this shaft right here, and this is so we can stop the secondary clutch so it's easier to put in and out of gear. So I think I'm going to have him kind of work on getting some of that cleaned up and the air cleaners off. There, he's got the disc. So we're going to get that put on there and then try to figure out where we're going to mount the brake caliper. But that'll fit on there. He's gonna have to pull some air cleaners off, do some cleaning, and then we will start working on all of that. So I got the box cut. We'll take it downstairs where my brake's at, and we'll bend all these lines here so it'll be a nice box, and then I'll have to make a bottom for it. I'll make the bottom so we can get in the back side of it in case we need to hook up any wires or take it apart, and that's how we'll kind of get this mounted to the cage as well. So I got that all cut. And then over here, this brake caliper and the rotor setup are actually off a go-kart. And I think we're actually gonna get lucky that if we mount it right here, we have about a 1/4 inch gap between the mount on the caliper and the mount here, where if I use 1/4 inch steel to make the mount, I think we can actually make that work. I can go on a little bit more with the rotor if we need to. So that hopefully will work out, and then we'll just have to make a cover that sits over top of that. But hopefully that thing works out pretty good. So we're gonna go downstairs, bend it, bend that for the box, and then I think we're gonna try to draw up the new bracket for this and see if we can't maybe get that cut out yet tonight. So we got the box kind of tack welded up. Jonathan pointed out to me that I may have missed a spot or two. Was a little generous on the welder when I started. Turns out I should have turned it down a little more than what I did and burned a couple holes in it, so we got to fill them in, and then I had one gap that was a little bigger than it probably should have been, but we made it all work, didn't we? So while I was doing that, Jonathan took the plate off the top of this timer, so we're going to mark out these holes so we can drill that in there, and then we can mark out where the next couple of switches go. I think we're gonna have 3 toggle switches that are gonna sit up above here. So I think we're gonna get all that marked out, see if we can't get them maybe drilled tonight. We might even just try to set some switches in there and see how they're all gonna work out. Jonathan's trying to put the drill bit in. I'm gonna sit here and punch these. Jonathan wants to drill them. All right, ready, bud? All right, ready? Don't hurt me, please. I gotta work tomorrow. Start with that one. We'll just go right down there. Yep. Try to hold straight. Try to hold it straight. Go. Push, man. Well, don't hurt the table.
Don't you want me to go through it?
Yep, come on. You're good.
Are we going to use it?
So the initial box is kind of all mocked up. The timer fits in the bottom, top toggle switches in there. We'll have two other toggle switches. One will be probably for lights and the other one will be to turn on the gauges. Plan is to kind of mount it right here. So Rose and Jonathan can move the ignition switch and stuff like that. So I'll have them kind of sit on it, see if we need to go up or down at all. I'll probably try to go up quite a ways. Or maybe they'll want it up in here.
No, because we can't hardly reach it.
Okay. But we had the ignition switch right about there last year, so I think if I get the ignition switch right there, I think we should be okay. So we'll have Rose sit on it, and we'll see where she wants it, and then we'll get it mounted to the roll cage. So I'm working on the mount for the front brake caliper. This is the one that's going to stop the front jack shaft. I started with this one. It was going pretty good, except for I've got to drill another hole right about here for the actual jack shaft to come through, which doesn't leave me a ton of meat right here for actual support. So drew it out again. We'll add this on the end of it. That way we actually have a little more room. That way when we put the jack shaft hole in it right there, we have enough room to actually have enough meat there on the metal to actually hold it. So we'll get this one cut out, get this hole cut, hopefully get this all tack welded in here before too long, and then move on to the next thing. So I've got kind of the initial part of the bracket cut. Caliper fits on there nice. I drilled them 2 holes so that I could actually mount the caliper, and everything seems like it lines up pretty good. The only thing I think we might end up running into an issue with is I was hoping to mount the caliper on the jack shaft this way, and I don't think I'm going to have enough room on the shaft. I think I'm going to have to mount it this way, which means I'm going to have to notch this out quite a bit bigger. I didn't want to, because now we're going to get pretty thin right through here. However, this is just stopping the jack shaft for when we put the tractor in and out of gear. It's not like it actually has to stop the wheels or anything. So it's not going to take a ton of pressure. And with the rotation that this is spinning, hopefully it'll be all right. And we're still going to have quite a bit of meat up through here, so I think we'll be all right. So we're going to try to get this set. We're going to set this back on the tractor and try to get this clearance out the way we need to. And then we'll end up rounding these edges, kind of clean it up a little bit. And then we'll have to trim a little off right here. And then we should be able to mount it onto the tractor. Hopefully that all goes pretty good. We can mount it on here before too long, and then we can move on to the next thing. So after all the cutting, grinding, this is how much of the steel we have left. This is going to end up going and going to be mounted right down underneath here, about right there. And then we'll get this tack welded on. Jonathan's going to cut off or start grinding all this so we can tack weld it on there. And then we'll get this cut off. This is the old bracket from the original brake that was on the jack shaft years ago. Had a lot smaller rotor that come off of here, and it was a cable-driven brake, which is what comes through right there. This is going to be a hydraulic brake, and we're hoping to put the actual brake lever up on the shift handle so they kind of work together. So, but yeah. This is how it's going to end up being. We might have to trim a little bit more off, but all that steel will end up being this much. So we're going to get her cut, or get everything ground, and we'll get her tacked on. Moment of truth, we're gonna see if all of this fits, works on here the way it's supposed to. This should slide on like so. We're gonna end up just running the keyway in it and putting the washer on the end so the rotor will actually float in there. And then this will float too, and that'll help it where if there's any deflection, should kind of soak that up. And again, it's just stopping the jack shaft, so it's not like it's got to stop the rear wheels. We've got the brakes for that. Now realizing that that bottom bolt is not conveniently placed.
It'll be fine.
It'll be fine. It's doable.
Yeah.
Actually, what I'll do is I'll start the bottom one first, and I can rock it up. Ooh. Oh, come on. Not convenient. Probably should have thought about this before.
Yeah.
It'll go. I got it started. Rock it up on here. Gonna drop a set screw. There it goes. Jonathan spinning the front wheel. Let me grab a rat socket. See if this kind of fits on here. We did not leave ourselves a ton of clearance on this bottom bolt. It will work.
It'll be fine.
You humming some background music, are you?
No.
Cool. And I think that will work. Steal the camera from you. Overall, other than not realizing how tight that one bolt was going to be, caliper actually fits on pretty good. We will probably have to make some kind of shield or cover for it. I'll have to ask the clubs that we run with what they think on that. But even that shouldn't be a big deal. We'll probably just have something that bolts on right here and comes up and kind of covers this.
What's the old cover?
The old cover will not work because the old cover actually mounted to this bracket that's down in here, and it went on with the caliper. But overall, I think that actually turned out pretty good. A lot of cut, a lot of grinding. Only took 2 attempts at making the bracket. Even here, if we have to move the rotor this way or that way just a little bit to tighten up the belt tension on here, it will still fit. So yeah, everything should be good there. I think next we're going to move on to the weight brackets, and I think I'm going to have Jonathan start pulling off the wheels, and I'm going to start cutting the front, and we're going to redo all of that. So we got her cut off, found some surprises. Not terribly surprised this thing is full of them. There's always been, seemed like 2 different people that worked on this because some of the welds were always pretty good on it. Some of them look like I did them because I'm not the world's greatest welder. But it's just, yeah. This frame was extended on right here, which is why I don't feel bad cutting it right there. You can even see like whoever ground this right there. I don't know. There's always been some good welds. We've always just made the tractor work, and we'll probably proceed to keep doing that, but every time we touch it, we try to make it a little bit better. I'm half tempted to even cut back farther and do a new mount up in here. That's probably an idea that we probably should look into, just to clean up some of that steel as well. Just get that out of there.
There's this like weird bracket.
Yeah, there's a weird bracket there for the steering too. That looks like it's all booger welded up. So we'll kind of, me and John there are going to kind of see what we got going on here, kind of make our decision, and kind of go from there. So we did ultimately decide just to take this off. It's kind of a bear to cut off. But like I was saying before, there's just the welds and everything are all kind of weird on this. At some point in time, I think the frame actually stopped right about there. And then they added on more. I don't know if somebody found out that they needed more front end weight or something, but it just, the way you see like how many different welds and stuff are on this piece. So kind of glad we made the decision to cut it off. We found out even like on the lower frame rails, like a lot of the bottoms weren't welded, kind of like here where they only welded about 2/3 of the way around. You know, the caps that are welded on here, just not worth the darn. And I'm not saying I'm the greatest at any kind of fabrication or welding, but we're gonna do a little bit better job than that. But now we'll be able to come right off of here with the rectangular tubing. We're actually gonna be able to move the gas tank back about another 1/2 inch or so, which is gonna shorten up the tractor just a little bit. I know it's not much, but I'll shorten it up as much as I can on the front because I don't like how far it sticks out from them front wheels. Me and John are gonna clean up some of this metal in the front, and then we're gonna start cutting some rectangular tubing and see if we can't get some stuff figured out. Quick update why Jonathan takes a Cheeto break. We managed to spill fuel. That was lovely. So we finally drained the tank, which the smart guy would have did that at the start, but we didn't. So we spilled a bunch of fuel, drained out the rest of it. We are going to be able to, it used to sit, we're going to be able to get almost probably 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch back on that tank. And then we will be able to make the mounts. But you can see we got everything kind of cut off. We just got angle iron kind of clamped in place to kind of just mock up everything. And then we'll make the brackets. We'll actually cut a slit in like right here to drop down the piece of steel that's going to hold the weights. And then we'll make a bracket that comes up off the top of here. They'll run a rod through it, and that'll actually hold the weights in place. I think overall it's going to look a lot cleaner. We will actually plate right here too. We'll make a little plate that connects these two and comes up onto here to kind of strengthen up the whole front end, because it does carry quite a bit of weight in the front of it. So we'll do that. We'll have a piece of flat steel that goes across the front of here. We're actually going to bolt on some of them weights that we used to previously just sit on here and do that. So we're going to start getting the measuring so we can actually kind of do the final cut on these for length, and then mark where we can put the slit for this, and kind of keep going from there. We're gonna have to get a different piece of steel. This one's just, I don't need 1/4 inch thick angle iron to hold the gas tank. So this is just sitting in there to kind of put the gas tank where it needs to be, and we can kind of get all the measurements figured out. I don't have a piece of 2-inch angle iron like I need, so I'll have to get one. Otherwise, looks like this actually, I'm really glad we cut all this off. Looks like it should go pretty good. So let's do some measuring, Jonathan, and see where the weights are gonna sit. Jonathan working out over there.
No, I'm not.
So trying to get things mocked up, we actually had to go back this far on the frame to find a place that was semi-square. So this is actually welded in probably an 1/8 inch off, because we measured it off of this front bracket, and then the frame rails aren't square, and it's wonderful. So yeah, we actually had to go back this far to get anything that was remotely square, which it is. And then we've got the back tank mount, the front tank mount, gas tank mount go up in here. And then we'll have the front gas tank mount close to around here. This will be where the weight bracket is for the suitcase weights. And then we're gonna stack a couple of the old plate weights. We'll bolt on up in here. And this is roughly about where the old frame used to end. I'm gonna try to get it shorter than that, but by the time I weld a hook on the front to tow it around, I don't know if we're actually gonna be any shorter. In fact, there's a chance we're gonna be a tickle longer. But we're gonna kind of get everything mocked back up in here and see if we can't get a better idea of how long this thing is going to be before we start making any more cuts. I don't know if we're going to get anything else cut yet today. Jonathan's going to knock over a weight, and then we're going to keep pushing on this thing. It'd be nice to get this front end all tacked together. That way we can finish making all the brackets and move on to the back. Once we get this all tacked into place though, this is going to be a big portion done. And then I think we're down to the only fabrication we really have left is the back weight bracket. And then we have a lot of little stuff to just kind of finish up, but I don't think that'll be too bad. Yep, the gauges, we have the gauge pod to make too. So that shouldn't be as bad though. So let's get all the stuff kind of mocked back up in here and then see if we can't have a better idea of how this is all going to sit. Oh. So we got the frame rails cut down in the front. We got first notch cut out of this one. I got this one marked off. We're going to cut the notch out of that one. After I get that notch cut, we're going to take the measurement so Jonathan can go cut that on the bandsaw. And then we're going to be able to kind of clamp everything back together, hopefully put that piece in there and make sure all the weights and everything sit right. That should slide right in there.
It's not going this way. I know what everybody's thinking. It's not going this way.
I would hope not.
It's going that
So yeah,
way. We'll
we'll get that measured up. Then we got to make plates for the side of this. I got to grab a piece of steel to go around the front of this. We'll put a tow hook on the front of it. And then we got to make plates on the side of this bar that goes across to run a rod through to hold the weights in, which that should not be that bad either. A lot of that stuff ain't gonna take much, just gonna take a little bit of time to get it all made up and cut. So let's get that one notched and we'll get Jonathan cutting that piece of steel. Yeah, make sure she's flat. Ooh, close. Oh. All right, clamp it now tight.
Okay.
You have it pretty close, bud.
I know. I'm just trying to get it in the middle. Oh,
No, you know, we'll check it here in a second. All right, now clamp it tight.
Okay.
All right, now use the tape measure. Make sure it's use tape measure. Make sure it's where we need to be.
What? Oh. What do we need to have it at?
12 and a half. We need to come this way a little bit. So loosen it. I'll help you out. Loosen it, just pick up the bandsaw a little bit.
Hang on.
Okay.
It's not fully tight.
Yeah, I know. It's gotta be tight enough. All right. Yep, it's good. Where are we at? That'll work. All right. Pick up the saw.
Can I sit down?
Hmm?
No.
All right. Runner. Slowest bandsaw ever. It gets the job done. Like we're missing a tooth already on the blade. John, scooting over. Let's see if she fits in there, bud. See if she slides down. Then. Shouldn't.
A little tight.
Oh, she's about perfect.
Now.
Looks like we got one rail that's got to come up in the air a little bit.
Will these actually hold?
You might be able to get one on there. See if it'll hold. Maybe a tack weld or two won't hurt anything. Cool. All right, we have just enough room for the tank to sit right there. And then it'll actually take, we have more room up on front than I thought we were going to have. So that works. We're gonna have to get all the frame rails and everything kind of sitting on there level and everything, but that works. They actually sit at more of an angle than I thought they were going to. Well, and we'll straighten that up a little bit.
Yeah.
Get plate welded on the front. Hopefully by this Saturday afternoon or Saturday morning sometime, we'll have everything tack welded together. There we go. Cool. So that should work perfect. There'll be another piece of angle iron we're going to put across here. That's going to hold the fuel tank. And then again, the water tank for the motor goes behind that. All that should fit in there pretty nice and tight. We have the piece of angle iron there for that. I haven't decided if we're going to bolt that in or weld it in yet. This one's bolted in, so I think we're going to bolt that one in as well. Just in case we would decide to go to some different type of fuel tank at some point in time. I don't think we will. This one works pretty good. We're also going to hang a bracket underneath here, and that's going to hold some weights on the bottom side of this as well. Some of the weights that used to kind of sit up on the front are going to hang down below to make sure we can get enough weight on the front of this tractor. On heavy biting tracks, we pretty much load the front of the weight, or the front full of weights right now. So I'm going to make sure we can do that again next year. So I think now we're going to design the front weight mount, or the front hook for the front bumper, and then we'll try to get that tack welded on.
I didn't know how it was.
So we're back working on the tractor this morning. Got the front hook all welded together. I did that this morning. Jonathan's cleaned off some steel. We're gonna start making the plates that are gonna go on the side of here to hold the weights on. So we've kind of drawn out kind of where it sits, you know, where the hooks, where the pin's gonna go through to hold all the weights. We're gonna probably make it go from about here up into here, and I think we're gonna put it on this close to the inside edge of the frame rail. Our goal is to kind of get everything all kind of tacked into place, all kind of ready to go for final weld yet today. So hopefully we'll have the front of this tractor kind of looking like it's supposed to here in a little bit. But we're going to kind of draw out what we want these to look like, get them cut out. Jonathan's got the piece of steel kind of all cleaned off, got all the oils and stuff off it. So we can draw this out and hopefully cut them out and make them work. What do you think?
Okay.
Let's do it. So we got it all drawn out. I think this is gonna be the initial design that we're gonna go with. Jonathan's over getting the drill. He wants to drill the hole. I want to radius these ends a little bit, just kind of give it hopefully a little bit nicer look. This is gonna be to the back of the tractor, and then this is gonna be to the front. We'll end up drilling 2 holes right there, and we'll shove a pin. It'll go all the way through the front and hold all the weights down. We'll radius this out a little bit so it kind of fits over top of the current weight bracket. I think we're gonna get this cut out and then see if it fits, and as long as we like it, we'll make a duplicate and then get everything welded on. Push, man. Can you hear the sound change? Oh, I was gonna say, you can tell you're almost through. Oh.
I think I'm crooked.
On.
I think I'm crooked in there.
You are crooked.
Uh-oh.
It'll be fine. It fits. It fits close enough. Horseshoes and hand grenades, buddy. Close enough. So, Jonathan said this is good enough. So I think we're gonna run with it. Actually sit right on here. We're gonna weld it kind of to the inside edge. And what'll end up happening is we'll just have a big rod that goes from here to the other side. We'll put a pin in it. That'll hold all the weights in. Simple design. But overall, I think it works. We ran it back far enough so we could actually, since there's a splice right here, we can connect, we can run this weld down onto here and it'll kind of help hold everything together. Again, we'll build a plate that kind of covers right here. Again, to kind of just hold everything together, because in all reality, we are going to hang, 100 and some pounds off the front of this thing. So that's just going to bounce around, and all it's going to want to do is pull all this apart. So we'll brace it up as good as we can. The tractor overall is going to be about 1.5 inches shorter. But it should look quite a bit better. I was hoping to really shorten it up by inches, but this is gonna work. We did get a little bit shorter. Jonathan's trying to kind of count out how many weights. I can't remember how many. I think we can hang 11 on the front of there, bud. Which they're 10-pound weights. That should be 110 pounds. And then we will have some more weights that are actually gonna bolt on underneath here and just kind of stay permanently. And then we'll just adjust our weights from there. We're gonna, I think, go get the second bracket cut. And then fire up the welder, and then we are going to get everything welded on. Some of the stuff might get tack welded, some of the stuff might get permanently welded, but we will get it all put together. So we got this side tacked in. We're actually putting just a piece of this rectangular tubing on the side of it, and we're actually putting a little piece of 1/8 inch steel in between just to kind of set it over just a little bit. That way when we go to shove the weights in there, we're not just slamming them right on the end of that, and it just gives a little bit of room for the weights up on top. So that side's tacked in. We're gonna get this side tacked in, and then we're gonna go back to putting the welding on the front.
Double.
And boom. Some cleanups, a little more welding to do, but everything works out. All the holes line up. So like I say, we'll be able to shove a rod right through there, all the way across, come out that end, hold all the welds in place, hold all the weights in place, tow hook on the front. And quite frankly, I think it looks quite a bit better. Jonathan went over and grabbed the old one. We went from that to that. We went from 2 rods that stick out that were waiting for me to fall on them and hurt myself.
I've already done it a few times.
Yeah, haven't we all?
Yeah.
To this. A lot more welding to do, a lot more cleaning up to do. Again, we'll kind of bevel that a little bit so that doesn't have a nice sharp edge there. We'll kind of get that all rounded off. But overall, I think it turned out pretty good. Next, we're just going to make the plates that are going to weld onto here to kind of help strengthen all this up.
And the caps.
Yeah, we got to weld caps that go on right here. And then get the weight bracket done for underneath here. And that's going to be all ready for final weld. Then we got to get the weight bracket for the back and a bunch of other little things, and we'll be ready to take this thing apart. I can hear that. So we're back at the tractor. We were down here last night kind of working on some things. Coming down this morning, kind of finished welding up some of this stuff. Got these plates on the side, got the caps in here. Again, we're going to have a lot of finish welding to do. Once we get everything kind of fabbed up where we want it, we will probably disassemble the tractor, and I'll be able to like tip the frame over and kind of weld everything on the bottom side of it. It'd just be a lot easier, a lot more convenient to weld. However, last night we come to the realization that the bracket holding on the steering rack was about to fall off the tractor. Yeah, it was, like Jonathan just said, it was bad. So we decided that is something else we were going to have to address. So we did get a bracket made for the front of the fuel tank that kind of sits up in here. And I think we're going to make some kind of mount where it kind of hung underneath here, and it's going to come up to this bracket, kind of help support it as well. So that's kind of where we're at now. We're going to try to get that stuff kind of done. Hopefully get all this stuff welded in. After we get that done, we have one more job of making the bracket that goes across here to hold the weights that we're going to hang underneath. And I've kind of started that already. But we're going to try to get all this stuff kind of finished up today so we can kind of move on to some other things.
Like the rear. Oh.
Yeah, we also took in last night, got this mounted. I kind of trimmed up a little bit. I haven't, so there is some adjustment on it so we can move it in and out. But that's where that's going to live for now. Yeah. We've used well nuts inside here to kind of help hold it. So we do have some adjustment on that. Yeah, we got rib nuts in there. So that's a little bit closer, slowly getting away. Jonathan cut some brackets last week to, these are the hold downs for the weights in the back. So then we got the weight brackets we got to get welded on yet. A lot of little stuff left to do. We're down to about a little over 2 months before she's got to get loaded into a trailer. It's going to go quick. So we need to keep working on it.
Okay.
So here's the old bracket we just cut off the cage. Here's kind of the start of the new one. Instead of everything kind of hanging off to this side, we're going to kind of move it into this side. There's nothing we have to worry about really hitting up until this point. Back up in here, we're not going to want, this is where the back of the lever swings, so we're not going to want any steel there, but we will be able to put a little up in there. And like I said, we're just going to try to kind of clean it up a little bit, make it look a little bit better, and then hopefully get it welded on and try it hopefully yet today. But I think next we're going to kind of start mapping out where this is going to go, get that cut up, and then after we get that cut up, we can kind of determine how much we're going to cut off here and off on this side, and then hopefully get everything tack welded together. Probably going to try to get some holes marked out so Jonathan can start drilling them, and then, like you say, hopefully get it done. So this is where we're at. Quite a bit different looking bracket. We're going to end up welding all this together, so this will be kind of like one piece. I'm going to leave a little there, and that's kind of for when we, well, drop stuff. But I'm going to leave a little on there, and that is simply so we can weld it to the roll cage and have a little spot to weld it on that side, and just to add a little bit of support. I think we're going to clean all it up. I'll end up rounding this edge right here a little bit, and then have to weld up all them cracks and seams. But overall, I think it's going to look quite a bit better. A lot smaller, but all the mounting places, everything's all the same as the last one, so we should be good there. But yeah, like I say, we're going to get all this tack welded together. While I've been doing that, Jonathan's doing a lot of other things. He's been kind of drilling the holes and making the bracket for the battery hold down. We're going to take that over to the vise here pretty quick and tap the back side of that one, so that'll work. And then Jonathan can kind of test fit that. And then hopefully by that time we'll be able to weld on the bracket on there, and we'll be able to test the throttle. So a little bit more work, and we'll have a couple things to be able to check off our list. All right, and we've got it tack welded on. Everything looks to be pretty good. I think everything should be sitting pretty good there. Quite a bit smaller. It looks a lot better sitting on here now. So I'm a lot happier with that. But that should be, I think, the last thing that we actually have to fabricate before we take this thing apart to start prepping it for welding. We have a lot of little things to do, a lot of little welding to finish up, but everything should be tacked in place. While I was kind of working on that, Jonathan finished getting this ready. So he got all these holes drilled, cut that. We will actually have a foam pad that sits underneath here, which is why it sticks up off the battery a little bit, but that'll hold the battery down. We still have plenty of room to hook up all the cables. Again, a lot of grinding and finish welding to do, but I think we're ready to take it apart. So bunch of changes, but I think we're there, and hopefully we'll get her torn apart and get her painted. And that's it for this episode of Small Town Puller. We got all the fabrication done on the tractor. The next step is getting it ready for paint. Hope you enjoyed this episode.
Please like, comment, and subscribe.
We'll see you guys later.